Welcome to Daily Review, your daily dose of literary exploration. We dive into books that spark curiosity and ignite growth.
That's right. And while our passion often leads us to nonfiction reads that empower and improve your life, really no book is off limits.
Exactly. From gripping thrillers to insightful memoirs, compelling fiction, historical accounts, we're here to share and discuss all the interesting reads we discover.
So tune in for your next great book idea.
Thank you so much for tuning into Daily Review. We truly appreciate you joining us for your daily dose of literary exploration.
Yeah, your support means the world to us and helps us continue to share these amazing books with you.
Okay, so today we're diving into a real landmark, a cultural and publishing phenomenon that's impacted millions. It's a book born out of the absolute depths of the Great Depression, but, it feels as relevant today as ever.
Indeed. We're taking a deep dive into Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And this isn't just some historical text. It's really a philosophy. A set of principles tested by thousands across all sorts of walks of life for over 2 decades before it was even published.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So our mission today is to really unpack the central magic formula that Hill claims can lead not just to, stupendous fortunes.
Which is what it's famous for.
Right. But maybe more broadly, to achieving any desired outcome in life. We'll explore its really extraordinary origins, get into the core principles, and maybe shine a light on some surprising people who used its ideas to reshape their own realities.
So what we've got here isn't just a book review, it's much more. You've brought insights touching on everything from overcoming, profound financial disaster, to harnessing the power of your imagination, understanding the very nature of human thought. It feels like a deep dive that could really revolutionize how you think about success itself.
Hopefully urging you to look inward, right, for the greatest power you possess.
Okay, let's unpack this. So to really set the scene for this remarkable work, we have to talk about the incredible circumstances around its birth. Our source material really highlights how Think and Grow Rich came out during the Great Depression, the 1930s. That was a period of just unparalleled financial difficulty, widespread uncertainty in American history.
It's hard for us to even imagine, I think.
It really is. Imagine widespread unemployment hitting these staggering levels, banks failing by the thousands, people losing their life savings, their homes overnight. It was this pervasive, grinding economic collapse. It touched nearly everyone. And while, many of us remember 2008, the economic black hole.
Right. Lehman Brothers, GM.
Exactly. That felt huge. But the 1930s, that seems like an even deeper, more systemic breakdown. The sheer scale of that hardship. It makes a book offering a way forward, a path not just to survive, but to prosper. Incredibly impactful.
It really does.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how work forged in that kind of adversity still resonates so much today.
It's absolutely fascinating. And what truly stands out is how Hill frames the book. It's like a direct, almost urgent response to this huge societal need. He explicitly says that despite many good signs and steps taken, our personal economic future still remains uncertain. And that's not just, looking back.
No.
It's a statement that still echoes today, right?
Okay.
It connects directly to our modern economic anxiety.
Totally. Job insecurity, market volatility.
The constant pressure to adapt. Exactly. This book wasn't really tailored for a boom time. It's fundamentally designed for navigating uncertainty, for finding your own agency when things feel chaotic.
That makes sense.
And that enduring relevance, that parallel between the 1930s and now. That's why its principles just transcend the decades. It speaks to this fundamental human desire for control, for prosperity, for meaning, especially when things are unpredictable.
Yeah.
It offers principles rooted in the timeless capacities of the human mind itself, not just fleeting economic cycles or, the latest tech fad.
And the origin story.
Yeah.
Story of this magic formula. It's like something out of a legend almost.
It really is.
It all kicked off with Andrew Carnegie. One of the richest men in the world back then, a titan of industry, the guy who basically personified the American dream.
Yeah, the ultimate rags to riches story.
Absolutely. Immigrated from Scotland, barely any formal education, starts working in a cotton factory for $1.20 a week.
Wow.
Yet, through sheer determination, sharp observation, massive initiative, he just climbs. By 24, he's running the Western Division of the Pennsylvania Railroad.
Incredible.
And eventually builds Carnegie Steel into this empire, creates this colossal fortune, redefined success. But what's remarkable is he believed this formula, the one that brought him his stupendous fortune, shouldn't be kept secret.
Right. He wanted it accessible to everyone.
Exactly, almost like a philanthropic gesture. So he challenges this young journalist, Napoleon Hill, with this unprecedented task. Go test and demonstrate the soundness of this formula, use the real-life experiences of countless successful people in all different fields.
And it wasn't a quick project either.
It's not. A grueling, more than 20-year research effort. Just an incredible testament to Carnegie's desire to, get the secret out there for the world's benefit.
It genuinely begs the question, though.
Yeah.
What kind of secret could possibly be so universal that it warranted this huge, decades-long investigation?
Right.
And the source material lists this incredible, almost unbelievable roster of people whose lives Hill analyzed to distill these principles.
Yeah, the names are amazing.
We're talking figures like Henry Ford, the assembly line visionary, John D. Rockefeller, the oil magnate, William Wrigley Jr., the chewing gum guy.
Thomas Edison, obviously.
Edison, absolutely.
Yeah.
John Wanamaker, the department store pioneer, Frank A. Vanderlip, a big banker,
Yeah.
even political figures like President Woodrow Wilson.
Wow.
This incredibly diverse collection, inventors, industrialists, authors, a president, even a freedom fighter like Manuel L. Cazan from the Philippines.
Yeah.
It powerfully suggests the secret isn't tied to one specific industry or background or time.
It transcends all that.
Exactly. It broadens the book's appeal way beyond just getting rich in the, dollars and cents way. It points to fundamental principles of achievement, things you can apply to any kind of success,
Yeah.
personal, professional, political.
Yeah.
It's really about mastering these universal laws of human thought and action.
And the historical impact. It goes
Yeah.
way beyond just individual wealth, too. Our source material notes President Woodrow Wilson, a guy dealing with the massive challenges of his time, World War I. He actually used this secret extensively during the war.
Really?
He incorporated its principles into soldier training, trying to boost morale, strategic thinking, even used it in fundraising efforts for the war.
Wow. To think a principle could help shape the mindset of an entire military force, maybe contribute to winning a global conflict.
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
It really is. And then there's the story of Manuel L. Cazan. He was the resident commissioner of the Philippine Islands.
Right.
And he was directly inspired by Hill's insights to push for freedom for the Philippines. He eventually became its first president. See, that's incredible.
So it's not just about building a personal fortune or business success. It's about achieving these huge, seemingly impossible goals. Building an empire, leading a nation through war, securing freedom for a whole people. The breadth of application is just incredible.
Absolutely.
So if this is a secret, these fundamental principles, where do we even start to uncover what it is? The book kind of hints the answer might be anywhere, right? First chapter, last chapter?
It says one sound idea is all that one needs to achieve success.
Right. But underpinning everything, the very first principle Hill really digs into is definite desire. And this is where it gets really transformative, I think, because it starts with this intense, burning, unwavering ambition, something that leaves no room for doubt, no room for retreat.
And the story of Edwin C. Barnes is probably the most powerful illustration of that, of definite desire.
Yeah, tell us about him.
So Barnes didn't just want a job with Thomas Edison, the famous inventor. He had this very precise, unwavering goal. He wanted to work with Edison.
Ah, with him. Yes, to be his associate, to go into business with him. That's a crucial difference from just wanting a paycheck.
Okay.
But he faced these two huge, seemingly impossible obstacles. One, he didn't know Edison personally. Two, he had zero money for the train fare to get to Edison's labs in Orange, New Jersey.
Right. Big problems.
Huge. Yet his desire was described as no ordinary desire. It was so definite, so all-consuming, that he made this incredibly audacious decision to travel by blind baggage.
Blind baggage? What's that?
It meant riding illegally on a freight train, often hidden in these dangerous exposed compartments, no ticket, no guarantees, super risky, pretty desperate move.
Wow.
But what really stands out about Barnes' desire is how unwavering it was. The book says he burned all bridges behind him.
Burned his bridges.
Yeah, that vivid phrase means he committed so completely to his purpose that he basically eliminated any possibility of turning back or having a plan B. His only option was succeeding with Edison. And that single-minded, intense focus just fueled everything he did.
Absolutely. It's that sheer intensity, that unwavering nature of his desire and action that makes his story so gripping. He didn't just, try to get Edison to give him a job.
Oh.
He literally declared, I will see Edison and put him on notice that I have come to go into business with him. He didn't hedge his bets. He didn't say, oh, I'll work there for a few months, see how it goes.
Yep.
No, his declaration was absolute. I will start anywhere. I will do anything Edison tells me to do, but before I am through, I will be his associate.
That's conviction.
It's more than just ambition. It's like a declaration of destiny almost. He knew where he was ultimately going, even if the first steps were humble, uncomfortable, frankly dangerous. He shows up, unannounced, looking like a tramp apparently, and states his intentions with such force that Edison, who was himself pretty unconventional, was intrigued enough to give him a shot. That's the power of definite desire and action.
And that unwavering commitment, it leads us straight into Hill's next critical principle, persistence, which is deeply, profoundly intertwined with that definite desire.
Okay.
The source material powerfully states that failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success.
The seed of an equivalent success. That's a huge reframing.
It really is. Think about Edison again. He dreamed of an electric lamp. And despite, over 10,000 recorded failures, experiments that just didn't work,
yeah, 10,000.
he stood by that dream until he made it a physical reality. Or Henry Ford. Started from humble beginnings, uneducated really, dreamed of a horseless carriage, and now, as the book puts it, evidence of his dream belts the entire earth. These aren't just passive dreamers. They are practical dreamers who simply do not quit.
They don't quit.
Exactly. And that perspective is transformative. It reframes failure not as, the end of the road.
Right. Game over.
But as essential feedback. Every failure is just data. It points out what doesn't work, which actually gets you closer to what will work. It shifts your whole approach to challenges. They become something to learn from, a necessary step, not something to avoid.
That reframing is so critical. And the story of R.U. Darby, that's another fantastic illustration, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, the 3 feet from gold guy.
Exactly. He literally stopped 3 feet from gold in a mining venture. He'd invested everything, hit what he thought was the end of the gold vein, and just gave up. Sold his equipment for practically nothing. The buyers, who had a bit more expertise, they dug just 3 more feet and hit this massive, rich vein, made a fortune. Darby lost a fortune just by giving up too soon. And this is the key part, he later recouped that loss many times over when he applied the persistence he lacked in mining to the life insurance business.
So he learned his lesson.
He really did. He made this profound discovery that desire can be transmuted into gold. He learned from that mining mistake by vowing, I will never stop because people say no when I ask them to buy insurance. It's an incredible story, transmuting past defeat into future triumph. What really stands out to you about how Darby leveraged that setback, not just thinking about it, but practically?
Well, what stands out is his profound commitment to actually learning from that painful experience and integrating it into his core philosophy, his way of operating.
Right.
He saw the no in sales not as a personal rejection, not as a signal to quit, but just as, the next step towards a yes. He essentially adopted the mindset of that persistent child mentioned in the book.
Oh, yeah, the kid asking for 50 cents.
Exactly. The book tells how this child kept asking her uncle for 50 cents despite being told no again and again until she just wore him down. Darby learned from that simple, unwavering determination. He called it the lesson to keep on keeping on no matter how hard the going may be, a lesson I needed to learn before I could succeed in anything.
Wow.
So this story teaches us that real persistence isn't some complex strategy. It's about holding fast to your definite purpose, despite the obstacles, no matter how many times you hear no.
Keep on keeping on.
Right. And that's a broader lesson. It applies to achieving goals in any area, right? Sales, writing a book, building a product. Every rejection is just a step closer to acceptance if your desire is strong enough and you simply refuse to quit.
Okay, so building on that foundation, definite desire, persistence. The philosophy then emphasizes the profound power of faith. Hill calls it the head chemist of the mind, the essential ingredient that blends with thought to reach the subconscious mind, and ultimately what he calls infinite intelligence.
Yeah, and it's crucial, like you said, to understand that faith here isn't just a religious concept for Hill.
It's more mental.
It's a powerful mental state.
Yeah.
A belief system so strong, it can literally influence reality. The book describes it as the only known agency that will give your thoughts this spiritual nature, allowing them to connect with this universal intelligence.
Okay, so how does that connection supposedly work?
Well, this is where Hill gets into the, let's say, less tangible but equally powerful aspects of the mind. He suggests that when certain emotions, specifically faith, love, and a focused understanding of the creative energy of SX.
Which he calls the most powerful positive emotion.
Exactly, linked to intense creativity and passion.
Hmm.
When these emotions are blended with thought, they effectively color the vibration of those thoughts.
Okay.
And this emotional charge allows the thought to instantly reach the subconscious mind. There, it's supposedly transformed into its spiritual equivalent. And that, according to Hill, is the only form that can trigger a response from infinite intelligence.
So what is infinite intelligence in this context? Is it God?
Not necessarily, or at least not exclusively in a traditional religious sense. It's presented more as a universal source of answers, inspirations, solutions, like a cosmic reservoir of knowledge, maybe akin to a collective unconscious or some fundamental creative force in the universe.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And this is where the practical application comes in. By emotionally charging your definite desires with faith, you're actively communicating them to this intelligence, making them right for manifestation in your physical reality. It's about consciously directing the energy of your strongest positive emotions.
And the proof of this, or the mechanism, is what he calls autosuggestion. He explains it very directly. One comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to oneself, whether the statement be true or false.
Right. What you tell yourself repeatedly sinks in.
Exactly. Our dominating thoughts literally shape who we are and what we experience. If we consistently repeat a statement, a belief to ourselves, even if it starts out as a lie or just wishful thinking, we eventually accept it as truth, and we start acting accordingly. It emphasizes this direct, powerful link between our internal thought patterns and our external reality. What we choose to focus on, what we tell ourselves, it actively creates our belief system and ultimately our results. It's powerful, almost a bit unsettling how malleable our own minds are.
It really is. And it raises this critical, maybe slightly sobering question. If positive thoughts charged with faith can reach the subconscious and influence reality, what happens if negative thoughts take root?
Good question.
Because the subconscious mind, Hill warns, will not remain idle. If you don't voluntarily and consistently plant definite positive desires into it, it will, just by default, feed on fear, poverty, doubt, all the other negative impulses that are constantly bombarding us from outside and inside.
So it needs positive input or
else the negative takes over. This is why he says faith and fear make poor bedfellows. One or the other has to dominate. It really underscores the active, vigilant role we need to take in directing our own subconscious. It's not enough to just not think negative thoughts. You have to actively and consistently implant positive, definite desires. Otherwise, the subconscious fills that void with whatever negative stuff it finds, often leading to self-sabotage.
And the example of Mahatma Gandhi really drives this home powerfully.
Yeah, amazing example.
He wielded this immense power, right? Arguably more influence than any king or general of his time. Yet, he had no money, no armies, none of the usual tools of power.
No home, not even a suit of clothes, the book says.
Exactly. But he did have power. The sheer, unyielding power of faith in his definite purpose. He famously urged his followers, be the change you want to see in the world.
A profound statement.
It's more than just profound. It's this incredible testament to how a definite purpose, backed by unwavering faith, can move mountains. Even without traditional power structures or material wealth, it shows the greatest power isn't external, it's within the disciplined, faith-filled mind.
Absolutely. It's a powerful demonstration.
So once you have this powerful alignment, definite desire, unwavering faith, how do you actually translate that internal state into tangible external results? What's the next step?
The next crucial step in Hill's philosophy is organized planning. He calls it the crystallization of desire into action. It's the essential bridge, really, that transforms abstract thought into concrete reality.
Okay, organized planning. Makes sense.
Right. And this means meticulously formulating a concrete, actionable plan. But the book stresses this fascinating, almost counterintuitive point. Riches, when they come in huge quantities, are never the result of hard work.
Never the result of hard work. That sounds wrong.
Well, it's a critical distinction Hill makes. He's not saying effort isn't needed. He's saying riches come in response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles and not by chance or luck.
Okay, so it's about effective work, not just grinding away.
Exactly. Directed effort. He argues a common significant reason for misery and poverty is simply the lack of a sound, organized plan. You can work tirelessly, put in endless hours, but if that effort isn't guided by a strategic blueprint, it might be misdirected, ultimately achieving little. He uses Henry Ford as an example again. Ford got his enormous fortune, not because he was necessarily the smartest guy around, but because he, quote, adopted and followed a plan which proved to be sound and practicable for all time. It's the clarity of direction, the plan, not just the sheer amount of energy spent that makes the difference.
That distinction is illustrated beautifully with the story of Charles M. Schwab and J.P. Morgan, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, the U.S. Steel story. That's a great one.
So Schwab, who was president of Bethlehem Steel at the time, isn't asking the powerful banker J.P. Morgan for a loan during this seemingly informal dinner.
Right.
Instead, he conveys an idea, a vision for the aggrandizement of steel, presenting this clear-cut, comprehensive program for reorganizing the whole industry.
It's an idea.
Just an idea, but conveyed with such clarity and conviction, backed by his own definite faith, it leads to the actual conception of U.S. Steel Corporation.
Wow.
And this single idea, articulated through an organized plan, ultimately resulted in a profit for the corporation of around $600 million.
$600 million in that era.
Absolutely staggering. For what started as a well-articulated vision, it wasn't just talk or dreaming. It was a strategically sound concept conveyed with conviction. It shows the immense financial power of an idea when it's backed by faith and, crucially, an organized plan.
It really is the power of thought made manifest. And this concept, effective planning combined with service, it extends deeply into marketing your personal services, which is incredibly relevant today.
How so?
Well, the future of employment, according to Hill, is increasingly about serving the public efficiently. He argues that both the employer and the employee are ultimately employed by the public.
Okay, the public is the real boss.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And this demands a radical shift from past attitudes. Hill notes that the old public be damned policy of earlier industrialists
Yeah, that wouldn't fly today.
is now passé. It's been totally replaced by the we are obligingly at your service policy.
Yeah.
This shift is so pertinent in today's service economy. Customer experience, reputation, delivering genuine value, these are paramount.
Absolutely.
It emphasizes that success in any role, from entry level to CEO, hinges on understanding and serving that ultimate client, the public. Your personal services become valuable when they're well-planned, expertly delivered, and focused on meeting a real public need with courtesy and efficiency.
That's a powerful shift in thinking. And there's that fantastic anecdote about the salesman during the Depression.
Oh, the bookkeeping offices on wheels.
You're right. A time when jobs were scarce, opportunity seemed non-existent. He loses his job, but he doesn't just despair. He takes immediate, decisive action. Enrolls in a specialized accounting course, gets familiar with all the latest bookkeeping gear, and then instead of looking for another sales job...
To start his own business?
Exactly. Starts small with his former grocer. Then rapidly gets contracts with over 100 small merchants, just charging a small monthly fee. His idea was so practical, so perfectly timed, that he soon sets up this portable office in a light delivery truck.
The bookkeeping office on wheels. Brilliant.
Isn't it? He even hired a creative young woman to help him make this attractive, professional portfolio like a silent salesman. Just remarkable ingenuity and resourcefulness. He didn't just complain about being unemployed. He saw a need, got the specialized knowledge, and innovated a solution, all based on organized planning.
It truly demonstrates that specialized knowledge, when you combine it with a clear idea and an organized plan, can lead to significant, often unexpected results. And it highlights another critical point Hill makes.
Which is?
That power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge. But that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the person who accumulates the fortune.
Ah, okay. You don't have to know everything yourself.
Precisely. This is a crucial insight that ties directly into his mastermind group concept. It frees people from that inferiority complex, maybe from having limited formal schooling. Hill argues you can be just as educated by organizing and directing a group of people who do have the specialized knowledge you need. You leverage their collective intelligence instead of trying to learn it all yourself.
Yes. This is where the mastermind group idea becomes so central.
Absolutely critical.
He emphasizes that no single individual has enough personal experience or knowledge to build, say, a great fortune without the cooperation of other people.
Teamwork makes the dream work, basically.
Right. You can come up with the plans, the strategies, but they should always be checked and approved by the members of your mastermind alliance. Henry Ford famously got this.
Yeah, he surrounded himself with brilliant minds.
Exactly. He deliberately allied himself with people like Thomas Edison, the inventor, Luther Burbank, the plant-breeding genius, John Burroughs, the naturalist, Harvey Firestone, the tire guy.
Quite a group.
An amazing group. Hill suggests that this friendly alliance allowed Ford to absorb their vibrations of thought, basically boosting his own brain power exponentially. It stresses that powerful synergistic effect of collaborative intelligence. The sum is way greater than the parts.
Yeah.
It's not just what you know, it's who you know and how you work together.
And this concept also powerfully challenges the conventional idea that formal education is the only way to get specialized knowledge.
Right. There are other ways.
Definitely. The source points to practical alternatives. Night schools, correspondence courses, dedicated self-study, all reliable, accessible ways to get essential training. And what's even more crucial, Hill argues, is the self-discipline you gain from these sustained, self-directed efforts.
Mm-hmm.
There's that anecdote about Hill himself being forced to finish an advertising course he'd paid for, even after he lost interest.
Because they kept billing him.
Exactly. The efficient collection system held him accountable. But he realized later it was a valuable part of training. It instilled persistence and highlighted the huge value of self-discipline, which often makes up for, wasted opportunity when knowledge was available without cost. It's about taking initiative for your own learning, no matter the path.
And then there's the incredible, almost limitless faculty of imagination. Hill just states it flat out. Anything can be created which a human being can imagine.
A bold claim.
A very bold claim. He argues we're living in the most favorable age for developing imagination, points out that humanity harnessed more of nature's forces in the 50 years before he wrote the book than in all prior recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
We went from being earthbound to conquering the air, harnessed electromagnetism for instant global communication, analyzed stars millions of miles away, all through the power of human imagination. It's truly exciting to think about the potential this faculty holds for us.
Indeed. And Hill gives us a practical framework for understanding and using it. He distinguishes between two types of imagination.
Okay, what are they?
First is synthetic imagination. This is basically organizing known ideas, old concepts, existing plans into new combinations. Like rearranging building blocks to create something novel. Think of engineering marvels like a skyscraper. That's synthetic imagination applying known principles.
Okay, combining existing stuff. What's the other one?
The other is creative imagination. This is presented as the direct link to infinite intelligence. This is where genuinely new ideas, hunches, inspirations arise, seemingly out of nowhere, without conscious effort sometimes. It's that sudden flash of insight, the aha moment.
The spark.
Exactly. And geniuses like Edison famously used both. Edison tried, 10,000 combinations, that's synthetic, trial and error before a creative flash, and inspiration from what he called the little people in my head, finally solved the incandescent light problem. Hill says the more you actively use the creative faculty, the more alert and receptive it becomes to these new thought vibrations. Which raises an important question for you listening. How can you cultivate your own creative imagination?
Good question. What does Hill suggest?
He suggests focusing on synthetic imagination. First, engaging purposeful thinking, brainstorming, combining ideas, and then be alert for those sudden inspirations, what he calls telegrams from infinite intelligence.
Yeah.
And crucially, act on them immediately before they fade. Don't dismiss that hunch.
Interesting. Capture the spark.
Exactly.
Now, this deep dive into Hill's philosophy wouldn't be complete without a really stark, honest look at what actually holds people back.
Right. The obstacles.
Yeah. Hill identifies this sobering list of 30 major causes of failure. And he notes, almost with heartbreak, that life's greatest tragedy consists of men and women who earnestly try and fail.
That's a tough statement.
It's profoundly sobering, especially when he estimates that a staggering 98% of people, by his reckoning, are classified as failures in one way or another.
98%? That's challenging. And he presents this almost confrontational view, especially on how maybe societal norms, conventional education, can inadvertently contribute to that high failure rate. The list of causes of failure. It's comprehensive. It cuts deep into human psychology. Things like lack of a definite purpose, lack of enthusiasm, intolerance, intemperance, which he defines broadly, like overindulgence in eating, drinking, drugs, even sex.
Okay.
Also intentional dishonesty, egotism, and a really critical one for our time, guessing instead of thinking accurately, instead of doing careful research.
Yeah, that resonates.
Definitely. He also explicitly lists lack of capital, which is obvious, but importantly, also procrastination.
Procrastination, the killer.
He describes it so vividly, the habit of putting off until tomorrow that which should have been done last year. It powerfully highlights how self-defeating it is. When you really analyze it, procrastination is often rooted in these underlying fears or lack of purpose or just refusing to take responsibility. It's this pervasive habit that just saps your momentum, kills opportunities, and it connects directly to other failures, like being willing to compromise with poverty or just a general lack of ambition.
He then dives even deeper into the emotional landscape with the 6 basic fears. He calls them ghosts.
Ghosts. That's evocative.
Yeah, because they exist only in your mind, he says, yet they have the power to cause immense, tangible damage. These fears are creations of uncontrolled imagination, and they can be as dangerous as if they lived and walked on the earth in physical bodies.
Wow.
And the fear of poverty is singled out as the most destructive, capable of paralyzing millions. He ties it into this money madness age, where people feel considered less than the dust of the earth unless they can display a fat bank account. It's a fear that's just deeply ingrained in us, even now.
Yeah, that fear of poverty is undoubtedly a huge driver for so many people, deeply ingrained in societal values. But equally insidious, he argues, are the others, like the fear of criticism.
What others think.
Exactly. It subtly but powerfully makes people neglect to acquire belated educations or refuse to take chances in business just because they're afraid of what people might say if they fail.
That holds so many people back.
It really does. He says this fear, above all, can completely stifle ambition and personal growth, leads people to submit to the destruction of one's personal ambitions simply for fear of judgment or ridicule. Then there's the fear of ill health.
Worrying about getting sick.
Right, which often, paradoxically, leads to hypochondria, constant worry, sometimes even manifesting the physical symptoms of the disease you fear. Just because the mind is that powerful, it underscores how our mental state directly impacts our physical well-being.
And the list keeps going, hitting some really deep, primal anxieties. There's the fear of loss of love. Hill calls that the most painful of all of the 6 basic fears, tracing it back to the Stone Age. He argues this fear causes more havoc with body and mind than any other jealousy, neurosis, potentially severe mental issues.
Yeah.
Then the fear of old age, often tragically tied to the fear of poverty again, distrust of others, fears planted by false and cruel teachings. And finally, the big one, the fear of death.
The ultimate fear.
Right, which can, ironically, lead to madness from constant worry, yet is utterly useless, he says, because it's inevitable, can't be controlled. And while we can definitely empathize with how universal and intense these fears are, Hill's consistent point is they're ultimately counterproductive. They're mental prisons stopping us from pursuing our true desires.
Which brings us to the profoundly important question. What is the antidote? If these fears are so pervasive, so paralyzing, what do we do?
Exactly. What's the solution?
The source emphatically states it's the habit of prompt and firm decision.
Decision.
Yes. It is, Hill declares, the only known antidote for these mental disease germs he playfully calls forensa and worryitis. Decision, in Hill's framework, doesn't just reduce fear, it neutralizes it.
How does it do that?
Well, once a definite, firm decision is made, the mind stops spending all its vital energy on worrying or being indecisive. Instead, it focuses that energy on action, on solutions. Hill explains the mind will not worry over conditions once we have reached a decision to follow a definite line of action.
Okay, decision stops the worrying cycle.
Exactly. And this is powerfully illustrated by one of those vivid examples in the whole book. Hill's interview with a condemned man.
Oh yeah, the man on death row.
Right.
Yeah.
Just 2 hours before his electrocution. And this man was described as the calmest of the 8 men on death row at the time.
Wow. Calm. Why?
He simply stated that his troubles would soon be over and that he felt fine ever since I learned for certain that I must die. I made up my mind then to accept my fate in good spirit.
He accepted it, made a decision.
He made the ultimate decision. It demonstrates the profound, almost spiritual power of decision and acceptance, even in the most extreme, seemingly hopeless situation. It frees the mind from the torment of indecision and fear.
That's an astonishing account, isn't it? To think that such profound peace and clarity could come from just a definitive acceptance, even facing death, it really underscores the immense power of decision-making. It highlights that the turmoil often isn't in the circumstances themselves, but in our internal struggle, our indecision about them. This condemned man, by making that final decision to accept, achieved a tranquility that the others, still caught between hope and fear, didn't have. The ultimate demonstration of decision's power.
Absolutely. A stark example.
So we've journeyed through this incredible genesis of Think and Grow Rich, born from the Depression. We've delved into its core principles: definite desire, faith, the subconscious mind. Then we moved into the practical stuff: organized planning, specialized knowledge, imagination, and finally we confronted the fears and failures that hold us back. It really feels like a complete interconnected philosophy, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. And what's most fascinating is how Hill ties it all together into this cohesive system. He explicitly states that the whole story of how to convert desire into money, or any outcome, is only fully understood and achievable when you've mastered, assimilated, and begun to make use of all the success principles in the book. It's not a quick fix, not a pick-and-choose list of tips.
It's holistic.
Exactly. It's presented as a holistic approach, where each of the 13 principles builds on and reinforces the others. They form this interconnected system. You need the burning desire and the unwavering faith and the organized plan and the persistence. The synergy of all these principles together is what, according to Hill, creates that unstoppable momentum towards achievement.
He even talks about what he calls the law of economics, describes it as more than a theory, a fundamental law that no one can beat.
The law of economics. What does he mean by that?
He explains it has this all-seeing eye and a perfect system of bookkeeping. It demands an accounting from anyone trying to get without giving.
So it's about reciprocity, value for value.
Exactly. It's not just about financial deals. It emphasizes this profound ethical dimension, a principle of reciprocity built into the very fabric of how success is achieved and sustained. It's a powerful reminder that true, lasting wealth, whether it's money, relationships, personal growth, is always based on providing equivalent value to others. The universe's way of ensuring balance, maybe.
That connects interestingly to the bigger picture Hill often painted. The source highlights America as this land of boundless opportunities, backed by fundamental freedoms. And to illustrate this, Hill points to the sheer amount of money Americans were spending back then. On everything from hair care, he noted $29 billion annually, to books, $31 billion, fast food, $115 billion, even toys, $34 billion. These huge consumer spending numbers, even amidst all the discussions we have about capitalism's complexities, are presented by Hill as unquestionable evidence of the country's riches. Not just stored wealth, but the vibrant economic activity, the freedoms people had. This perspective reflects the vast opportunities Hill believed were available for anyone willing to diligently apply his principles, no matter where they started. It's about recognizing the fertile ground that freedom and a dynamic economy provide.
This deep dive has really shown us that while, yes, money talks and financial success is a clear focus of the book, Hill himself acknowledged there are other riches more desirable than money.
Like peace of mind, happiness.
Exactly. Peace of mind, happiness, freedom. Yet he chose to focus specifically on accumulating money because of that pervasive fear of poverty that paralyzed so many millions in his time, and frankly still does for many today. His aim was to empower people to overcome that foundational fear first, equip them with a blueprint so that they could then pursue all forms of wealth, financial abundance, sure, but also profound happiness, personal freedom, a life filled with purpose. It's about unlocking your potential, starting by tackling that most crippling fear.
And that brings us right back to the overarching foundational message that just permeates every page of Think and Grow Rich.
Which is?
That the mind can produce anything the mind can conceive and believe. This isn't just some abstract slogan. It's the core knowledge Hill argues lifted the great Edison above the common herd, allowed him to push through those 10,000 failures to finally bring light to the world. It reinforces the power of the human mind is the ultimate takeaway. Your thoughts, when you imbue them with definite desire, faith, and an organized plan, they possess this profound, often untapped power to shape your entire reality.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, that one thought just keeps resonating, doesn't it? The tremendous, often untapped, truly transformative power that resides within your own mind.
So what does this all really mean for you listening right now? If you consider all these principles we've discussed, from definite desire and unwavering persistence to the catalytic power of faith, the necessity of organized planning, the huge potential of imagination, and the courage you need to conquer your fears.
You don't just have a book. You have a comprehensive blueprint for achieving practically anything you set your mind to.
So we encourage you to reflect on this. What single idea or principle from this deep dive really resonated with you? What will you intentionally mix with faith, maybe reduce to writing as a definite plan, and commit to putting into action starting today to translate your greatest desire into its physical counterpart? Because that path to achievement, whether it's financial, personal, professional, whatever it is for you, it begins with that very first definite step, the decision to act.
If you're enjoying what you hear, please consider taking a moment to subscribe, rate, like, and comment on any of the platforms you're listening from.
Yeah, this really helps support our channel and allows us to get better and bring you even more great content.
And if today's review sparked your interest and you're ready to dive into a copy of the book yourself, please consider using the link in our description to make your purchase.
Not only does it make it super easy for you to get your hands on the book, but it also directly supports our channel and the author, allowing us to keep bringing you more great content like this.
Thanks again for being a part of the Daily Review community.